And we've had some really good stuff said here tonight about step one. Would you agree with that? And what I want to talk about is just step one a little bit more, and that is the paradox of the paradox of powerlessness. And we kind of been talking about that powerlessness because see, we've all been raised to kind of try to pull ourselves up from our boots with our bootstraps and engage and take this world by storm. And you're less of a person. Now, I'm saying this is what we believe. I'm less of a person if I don't. Am I telling the truth? Is that the concept that's out there? And so when we come to this place, and I'm going to read it. All right, we admit that we admit that we were powerless over our problems, that our lives had become unmanageable. And now, in an intuitive sense, we know that to be true, correct? But the fact of it is, when we get into life and we get into situations, we want to try to force things and make reality bend to what I think the way it's supposed to be. Am I telling the truth? Okay, because we believe that we're supposed to be, and if we don't, then there's something wrong with us. All right, which yes, I understand. We come into this world as infants, and we are totally dependent. And as we grow in our being dependent, eventually, somewhere along the line, we have to learn to be independent. That's what our parents and society wants us to be. But the fact of it is, that's not really where it stops. It stops when we become interdependent or connected to others, that we unite together to make something better. Okay, and when one is weak, another can be strong. You know, a triple braided cord is not easily broken, right? And so, if we always stay one strand, then that means what could we say? Then we're really 3 times weaker, right? Or at least. And so anyway, imagine this. Rick referred to our scripture here out of Romans chapter 7, where Apostle Paul is speaking about his battle with his weaknesses. And it's hard to think about Apostle Paul having weaknesses. Would you agree with that? I mean, because he was the smartest man in the New Testament other than Jesus, and God needed somebody with his brilliance to write the New Testament. The only trouble was, now this may shock you, but Paul was power hungry. He could get intoxicated with power. Anybody here been intoxicated with something? Yeah. All right. It may not be drugs. It may be alcohol. It may be sex. It may be gambling. It may be whatever, whatever your intoxication element is, whether it's a behavior or a substance. The what? Opinions of others, yes. And so, because if those opinions are good opinions, then that gives us a little bit of a shot of dopamine or something like that to ease our pain, okay? And so here's Apostle Paul. He was power hungry, but that doesn't mean that he was trying to be bad. He was actually trying to do some good things. The good things he was doing was killing Christians. Yeah, but see, he was trying to be a good Jew and follow the rules that he was aware of. Catch the terminology, the rules that he was aware of, because you out there in Facebook land and you in YouTube, you are following rules too. And some of them are healthy and some of them are unhealthy. Okay? Well, and some of them are healthy, and some of them are unhealthy. And one of the rules that we're raised with is this paradoxical situation that we get put into is that you have to pull yourself up. You have to be powerful. You have to be mighty. You have to be strong. And if you don't do it, there's something wrong with you. And I personally think maybe that's the reason why we have some of the calamity that we have in society right now, whether it's substance or behavioral issues or even maybe suicide. Right, and the trouble is those are beliefs that are destructive. Yes, there's a place there, they said it with good intention, but it ends up causing more hurt and harm and destruction than construction. Okay? Destruction instead of construction. And so, Apostle Paul, he was in a place, and this is in 2 Corinthians 1, last part of verse 8. Yeah. Do I? Yeah. And so, and this is that we were crushed, we were overwhelmed, we were beyond our ability to endure. This is Paul here speaking. He said, the back up in the first part of that, this was in Asia, and he's telling this to us so that we can be aware of what's going on, what he has contended with, and to help us with his story. That's what testimonies are so good about, is that your story will help others. Because we find connection and solace in those stories, and if you can make it, then maybe I can make it too.
Right. And if you went through that, I went through that.
Right. Absolutely. And so, and continue on down there. Said we thought we would never live through it. This is Paul here. Now you'd think Paul would have control of his thoughts, but he had a problem there. He was thinking that he couldn't make it. Well, maybe it was factual. And he was focused on what I would say maybe are the wrong facts. Have you ever been focused on the wrong facts? Yeah. Well, I got about 50% nods out of that. Facts or rules. And so, in fact, we expected to die. Man, how many times have we been in places that we didn't see nothing but darkness? It was a pit. And we were being sucked down into it, and we expected to not make it out of there. Right? That's how we felt. That's what we saw. So we really had a strong tendency to want to believe it. It's hard not to believe it. I'm looking at everybody, Doug. But you're just maybe a little more sensitive than some of the others. So, in fact, he said, I thought we were going to die. I got to hurry here because I'm only supposed to take a few minutes. But as a result, we stopped. This is what he did. And this is what I think that we all need to do. It says, but as a result, we stopped relying on ourselves. And see, and that's what step one's talking about, is we've been relying on ourselves, and we realize now, I don't have power over those things that I'm addicted to because they're the one that controls the power. Doesn't mean that I don't have some power to do some things in my life. It's that those behaviors or substances control me. I'm their slave. Anybody here realize you're a slave? Yeah?
But that don't make you weak. As far as meaning.
No, it means you got some propensities there. And But you do have, but you don't have, as long as you believe that you are all powerful and not able. That I'm able in my own strength to stand up against that, and I believe that I don't need any help. I don't need anything to help me. I got this. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. I got this. I can do this. And see, and that leads us into that isolation mentality that we pull out and disconnect and hide and withdraw, and we get alone. And in warfare, when you're alone, you're easily targeted and you're easily picked off, right? And that's the way it is in this war that we're talking about here. Would you agree with that? And because you know, even the scriptures talks about when, and triple braid cord is not easily broken, but it says if two are to fight, you know, you can have each other's back, you know. And again, we're stronger together than separate. There you go. Thank you. And so here we go. He said, we stopped relying on ourselves and learned to rely only on God. Now, the trouble is, most of us have a problem relying totally on God because we're used to relying on number one. Now, that's hard. That's hard stuff right there. And you may not even realize it. I've been in situations in my life that I did not realize it. I didn't get it. I didn't know. Paul was doing what he thought was right by killing Christians. And he was doing it with zeal. Okay? And it was giving him his high. But then he realized he wasn't as powerful as he thought that he was. Does that make sense? And so, and then he realized that. Now, that, and of course, that was in a different place. But the point that I want to make right here, once we have a problem or a propensity, we want to believe that we get it whipped and it's one and done and we're over with. You're squirming. and the fact of it is, when we have a chink in our armor, I wish it wasn't so, but it seems to be that way. We have to be aware that that is a spot that we have to be aware of from now on. Now, that doesn't have to control you and manipulate you, but you can't give it a blind eye. Does that make sense?
My assumption, correct me if I'm wrong, God can't do it all. I got to do my part too.
And your part is surrendering, allowing him to come in, turning it over, and that's exactly what Paul did, because the fact of it was, and we've all been to this place, that we thought we were going to die, and we did go ahead and turn it over to God because we didn't have any other choice. I've been there, done that. Yeah. The trouble is, as soon as he rescues us, then we take it back. And yeah. Thank you for doing that. I'll take it from here. And that's a universal problem. But most people don't want to accept that. They don't want to cop to that. They want to pretend whatever they want to pretend. Let's just put it that way, okay? How about that? And so Apostle Paul here, he said that to learn to rely only on God who raises the dead. And see, when we need to come to that place, and I'm better than I used to be, but I'm not as good as I'm going to be, and I want to be, and I should be, okay? All right? But I'm not what I used to be, all right? And I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it. And the fact of it is, each time I go down that swirling motion, down that porcelain receptacle, some people call it toilets, other people call it crappers, you know, Throne, yeah, thrones. And anyway, when we go into that swirl, and what put us into that place? This is the key, one of the key points here. What put us in that place that we're going down that swirl? You said ego, yourself. Say it again. Trying to do it on your own. Say it again. Our poor choices, which encompasses all that was said there, right? You know, and and some of our poor choices can even be with good intentions, because I believe that I should be able to fix this. I should make it be different. I should be tough. I should be whatever. Those again are the rules, the false rules that oftentimes we live with. Now, how do we know what those rules are? Well, first you have to seek, you have to look, you have to find, you have to be willing to see. You know, somebody said today, how can people look at the same thing and they can see total different facts out of it? And I said, yes, they can. Well, how can they do that? That was the question. And I said, it's because of your perspective, what the beliefs that you have in your mind. And some of our beliefs, some of my beliefs are distorted. I'm working on them. Again, I'm better than I used to be, but I'm not as good as I'm going to be. I'm always working on them. And how do we find them? Because I measure my beliefs up against what I know to be true, the truth. And I work on it. And being with people help me, because real people, I'm talking real people. You know what I'm talking about, real people? I mean, yeah, well, people that are really real about their stuff. Now, yeah, you know, not the posers or the actors, okay? And some of them can even have good intentions, but still, if you haven't become aware, then you're being really led around by those distorted thoughts. And it's sad. But anyway, I've rambled around here, and hopefully I've made some sort of sense. And that Apostle Paul, when he had this event in his life earlier on when he was intervened by the Holy Spirit, and that's where he had his conversion on the street. But see, that wasn't his last one. He had others, just like you and me. Paul was a hard head, and so are you. And so am I. So am I. And so anyway, I'm glad you're here. Saturday night is about recovery. It's about dealing with whatever's going on in your life. And we want the best for everybody. You know, again, like said earlier, you know, we accept you. We may not accept your stuff. Yeah, you can come here high or drunk, and we'll accept you as long as you act appropriate. But the fact of it is, we don't accept your stuff. That means that we may not like what you do. Hey, I don't even like everything I do. Okay? Right? You don't have to agree with me so much. And so let's work on it, because you know what? Today, we all can do something. We can make ourselves just one notch better. And in a few days' time, we're better. We're better than we were. We may not even be able to see it, but those around us will see it. Will you agree with that? Yes. So I'm going to be talking again in a little bit, and we're going to be talking about HALT. Remember, we started on a couple of weeks ago. You were at HALT, okay? Yeah. Hungry, angry, lazy and tired. We're going to be talking about that. And those are 4 symptoms or signals that can help you in your recovery, and if you address them, can help you to prevent relapse. Thanks.